Welcome to GNCC's Espresso Live from the Corner Office, where we bring you conversations with top leaders and executives who are shaping industries and driving innovation. Today, we are thrilled to have a distinguished guest joining us, Dwayne Charette, President and CEO of Airbus Helicopters Canada. With decades of experience in the aerospace sector, Dwayne has led Airbus Helicopters Canada through transformative times, driving the company to new heights in both innovation and operational excellence. Under his leadership, Airbus Helicopters Canada has played a key role in enhancing the aerospace landscape, not just in Canada, but globally, by pushing boundaries and making advancements in safety, technology, and sustainability. Today, we'll dive into Dwayne's personal leadership journey, explore the future of aerospace innovation, and discuss how Airbus Helicopters is addressing the growing demands of the market while fostering a culture of continuous improvement and community impact. Dwayne, we're excited to have you here with us today. We're equally pleased to announce that this Espresso is being powered by Niagara Economic Development, whose mandate is to promote Niagara on a global scale and to work in partnership with the region's 12 municipalities to provide effective and innovative services. Our thanks go to the Niagara Region's Economic Development team and all that they do for Niagara. For today's format, just to give all of our attendees a little bit of an overview, the majority of it is actually a Q&A session. You have the opportunity to utilize the chat function for questions. Please know that the questions are anonymous. They're directly only being seen by the people who are here on the panel, and we are committed to getting to all the questions. Please know that this is a recorded session and it will be made available to you afterwards as well. Additionally, if you'd like to enable live transcript, you can find that option on your Zoom screen at the same time. And now I'm pleased to say that speaking on behalf of the region, it is my pleasure to introduce Fort Erie's Mayor and Regional Councillor Wayne Redekop, who is also a member of numerous Niagara Region committees. Among them, the Planning and Economic Development one, Corporate Services, and he's the chair of the Budget Review of the Whole. Mayor Redekop, thank you very much for being with us, and it's over to you.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you very much for having me. I don't usually get to speak on behalf of the region, but I'm pleased to be able to do so. I'm more used to speaking for the town of Fort Erie, and I understand you wanted me to just give a little bit of an outline as to things that are happening in Fort Erie.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so you mentioned that I'm the chair of the region's budget committee, and that's a real challenge and something that I know everyone in Niagara is really following closely, because we all want to know what's happening with our property tax bills, aside from what's happening in our municipalities. In Fort Erie, we've had some really stellar growth over the past 3-4 years, and right now we're on target to have the greatest number of housing starts in the town's history this year, and there's a number of new developments as well, residential developments. We've been fortunate because our housing costs are probably among the lowest in Niagara, and that has attracted not only the retirees that are moving here, whether from Niagara or from other parts of the GTA, but we've also had a lot of young families move in, and that's been great for us because it's helping to fill some of the job openings that are arising, and in that regard, we've had some really exciting industrial developments over the past couple of years, starting with the expansion of abatement technology, a 75-year-old, now 76-year-old homegrown business that is now expanded into its new 100,000 square foot facility on the QEW, which you all are aware of. They have some plans for a couple of expansions, and we're hoping to move those forward as quickly as possible. We also have the new Siltech plant. It's a 230,000 square foot facility. It's a specialized silicone manufacturer, a couple of plants in the GTA. This will be their first outside, and it will, again, create a lot of employment opportunities in our community. And then we also have just recently welcomed Holland Power Services, which is a power restoration firm, originally from New Brunswick, has plants in a couple of, or operations in a couple of provinces in Ontario, and is actively engaged, particularly in the United States, along the eastern seaboard, and currently as a result of hurricanes Helene and Milton. And then, of course, we have Airbus, our 40-year old foundational manufacturer in our community. It's one of the largest employers in Fort Erie and obviously has an international reputation. These things all help to raise the profile of our community, and we're very, very pleased that we have a local individual in Dwayne running that operation. He's been a great partner. Airbus has been a fantastic partner for the town of Fort Erie, as have many of these businesses that I've made reference to. And as you know, when a community is trying to grow, it takes a lot of individuals from a lot of perspectives. As Airbus grows, they need employees. We're hoping to be able to assist them to fill that void. And I know a lot of the employees at Airbus are Fort Erie residents, and we're very pleased about that. And Dwayne, congratulations to you again. You're a bit of a unique story, but I'm sure we'll get into that as we go along. But yeah, you've been a great partner, and Airbus is a major, major player for us in Fort Erie.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the kind words, Mayor Redekop.
Mayor Redekop, thank you so very much for joining us. And I really do appreciate actually giving us a little bit of an insight of Fort Erie, but specifically also as it relates to Airbus. So on this note, for all of our attendees, what we are looking at today is looking at and focusing on a personal leadership journey. We are going to look also at exploring the future of aerospace innovation and discuss how Airbus Helicopters is addressing the growing demands of the market, their future goals as an organization, and we're going to finish it up with some rapid kind of one-answer questions just to complete the dialogue that we have actually here with Dwayne today. Dwayne, I am going to share the sentiments that Mayor Redekop has shared, and congratulations, as 2024 marks 40 years of growth in Canada. Airbus Helicopters established its Fort Erie facility in 1984, which has served as the foundation for Airbus' presence in Canada. You're a key player in the Canadian aerospace industry, covering the commercial airliner, helicopter, defense, and space sectors. Established in several cities in Ontario, Nova Scotia, and Quebec as well. Today, Airbus boasts a robust industrial activity in the country, including its A220 commercial airline, final assembly line, and program headquarters in Mirabel. And just to start out this dialogue, and for all of our participants today, when someone asks you to say something about your company, to give a quick overview, Dwayne, how would you phrase it? How do you position the company, just so that we can have all on the same foundation and platform as we go into this dialogue?
Yeah, no, okay, well, yeah, absolutely, certainly, and thank you very much for the kind words. You know, sometimes you don't really sit there and listen to everything that goes on with Airbus, and I mean, you know, we work in our sections and our segments, but yeah, very, very proud to lead Airbus Helicopters Canada for sure. You touched on it a little bit, Mishka, when we talk about, you know, again, Airbus and what we represent in Canada. I think when we look again, I'm talking more at the group level, of course. But you know, if Canada, outside the home nations of Europe, Airbus is a European company, but you know, Canada is a key market, and if you look at Canada, it is the largest number of employees outside of the home country. So there is a key significant focus on Canada and a key significant importance on Canada, and that being said, I like to think that it all started here in Fort Erie, right? As you mentioned. 40 years ago, this establishment was created, and we've been here waving the banner for Airbus for the past 40 years. And slowly, the other divisions have caught on and came to Canada, and now we're a full force in Canada, and very proud of it.
That's amazing. When you mentioned it, Mayor Redekop mentioned your employee base. For those who are in attendance, what is the number that you're looking at? How many people are employed by Airbus in Canada?
So Airbus in Canada, we're somewhere around 4,500. employees, and again, that would be direct employees for Airbus in Canada. You mentioned about where we are located, so for sure, near and dear to our heart here in Fort Erie, Niagara, and this is the headquarters for the helicopter division. But as well, the A220 line in Mirabel has a significant footprint, as well as Airbus Atlantic with some of the other operations that they have throughout the country. But again, here in Niagara, this is kind of our story, if you will, that we had on September 13th when we talked about it. It all started here. So, Niagara can be very proud of what we created here and how it's grown.
Yeah, and I think that is reflected in the business community across all of the municipalities of Niagara. So thank you for all that you have done, not only in highlighting Fort Erie, but also Niagara and Canada as a whole in the role it plays. But part of this series is to look at your personal career journey. And those are some of the questions we often don't get a chance to ask, but I thought maybe this is a really good format because often we are joined by individuals who want to know more about what got you to exactly the place that you're in right now. So if I would ask you, what are the key experiences or milestones that have shaped your journey of becoming the president of Airbus Helicopters in Canada here? What would you, when you look back on your career, what would you say are some of those key experiences or milestones that brought you to this moment in time?
Yeah, no, for sure, when I take a step back and I look at where I am today, when I started my career, I never thought that I would end up where I am today. Actually, I didn't even have it in my radar. I think when we talk about the experiences when I was young, I think what I did well was I moved around. So I had different experiences in different industries, different roles, and I was able to kind of understand what I liked, and of course what I did not like. So through the different experiences in the different markets and the different positions, it kind of, if you will, guided me. And I mean, where I ended up when I first joined Airbus 22 years ago, I actually joined Airbus as the manager of materials and purchasing. So my background was really in materials. And I had experience in automotive, I had experience in appliance, I had experience in the service industry. So, it kind of gave me that basis, if you will. I've had lots of experience and was able to bring that. And when I came here to Airbus, and what I was able to kind of bring up bits and pieces of all of my different experiences. And it wasn't a cookie cutter approach, but some things that worked well in automotive could work here. Some things that worked well in appliance could work here. So just bringing all that together, I think is really kind of what shaped and put me in a position where I am today to be successful, because when some other opportunities came up, I kind of already lived it somewhere else, if you will. So I was quite fortunate that way for sure, and I had a lot of good leaders along the way that gave me lots of autonomy that I was able to learn. So I think the best way to learn is by doing, not by watching, and very fortunate that way. So yeah, I would have to say it's lots of experience early on, different market segments, and then really kind of understanding and help me to understand business better, if you will.
Yeah, I think it's excellent. Actually, we've heard from many leaders and in the community how critical it was for them to move around, and really defining along that journey of moving around, courageously moving around, what is actually their strengths, and then finding the support system that it's actually that allowed them to actually move forward from there too. All of us in leadership positions have had challenging moments, and we had to make very challenging decisions for and in your role. When you look back at some of those moments to saying, I wish I could have done without this or without this challenging decision, what are some of those moments where you're saying, those are probably the hardest in my role, the ones that I'd like to do without, but the role doesn't allow me to do without?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, as a leader, and to your point, we're paid to lead. And where I don't want to say the word struggle, but things I could, some of the challenges, is when we look at the people aspect, and when we look at our company and we look at the strength of our company, and the company, it's people and it's our culture. And I would say, so we are a global company. We have reaches well within Europe, but within Canada as well too. We have customers all the way from the West Coast to the East Coast. So we actually had to look at our setup and some of the, I'll say, some of the challenges that we had. We used to have a warehouse in Western Canada, and we had to take a decision that, again, I would say was the right decision for the business, but there's always people involved. So I think from our standpoint and from what we do here, I'd hate to say that the business part is easy, but to be fair, the business part is pretty straightforward. When you deal with the people and the culture and the commitment, and you get all this from people, right? And how do you continue to drive that? And then when you have to make changes and it has an impact on the people. And I think this is really, from our standpoint, and we've been through a lot. I mean, I became president just right before COVID. So, we had all the challenges with COVID and, what some people may or may not know about helicopters, but helicopters really are a tool for a lot of the different industries out there in the emergency medical services, in the law enforcement. So, we have a place where, again, when COVID came, and then all of a sudden, just to keep the plant open, to keep the people safe. But our customers were relying on us because emergency medical services were, probably never more needed than at that time. So we needed to make sure that we could keep them flying. And how did we do that? So then we had to disrupt the employees' lives, because we said, okay, we're gonna go to a green or a blue and a red shift, and we're gonna go to an A and a B shift, and we're gonna separate people out. So these were decisions that were challenging, because it takes a toll on everybody, and there's a lot of uncertainty. But that being said, I'm proud that we kept our customers flying, we kept our employees safe, and then I think on the grand scheme and globally as well too, the contribution that helicopters made during that period of time is quite significant. And I still hear stories today from some of our customers, and they were telling me, they're transporting victims, and how important it was that we were there and that we were able to keep them flying. So, yeah, the people part of the job is probably I would say the trickiest, but certainly, very, very proud of what we've been able to accomplish. And I think as leaders, it really is our role. Probably first and foremost, it's the people aspect. Without the people, you don't even have the business. So this is something that we work on a lot here within Airbus, but certainly here in the facility in Fort Erie.
And I think it mirrors that experience that a lot of local leaders, national leaders have as well, is that aspect that you have highlighted. It has changed over the years. The demands have changed, and we see it at all levels. But it is also the most rewarding aspect of it, because we know we're nothing without the team that actually we surround ourselves by. Can you share an example of a leadership lesson that has greatly influenced your career? Maybe ones that have shaped you, individuals that have kind of stood by your side or have given and provided you some advice to saying, this really made a difference. It made me look at things differently as I moved forward, and maybe changed your approach overall.
Whew, that's a great question. So I would say once the leadership lesson would really be once I went into more of the general management position, if you will. So before, I tended to be a little, I'd say, focused on, if you will, your directorate and what you're doing, and really understanding. And the feedback that that I got was, you do a really good job, but you need to take a more broader view. You need to be a little more collaborative, which sometimes, maybe to be fair, I wasn't. So you're kind of just so zoned in. My take was that I would always be the one, if you need it done, I'll deliver. And then then it was one where you need to deliver, but you need to deliver with the people in your team, and you just can't do it yourself. So I think collaboration, some feedback that I had, and what we strive a lot here is to make sure that we get buy-in from the stakeholders. It really is, and you had mentioned it. I mean, the workplace has changed from what it was 20 years ago to what it is today. And even within Airbus, and collaboration is key. So it's really, it's pushed all the way from the top, but we try to push it from the bottom here as well too, where I came from, I did have a short stint with Toyota, so I talked about my automotive experience. And there it was, nobody knows a job better than the people who are doing it. So here, it's the same type of thing, being a good leader is about listening and being collaborative. So that would be some feedback that I had in my early years, which I think maybe, I wasn't maybe as in tune as I needed to be where it's helped me to get to where I am today.
Yeah. You know what I always appreciate is when we see actually that leaders in all positions are still learning, that it never ever ends and never changes, that we actually are continuously making a commitment to actually becoming better and being better at what we're doing and how we're approaching it. You're working in an industry that is highly competitive, and it's also at the same time a very innovative sector and industry. What personal qualities do you believe have been critical to your success in this so highly competitive industry that you're finding yourself in?
Personal qualities. Yeah, so I would say personal qualities for me, being open-minded is very important, especially when we look at the helicopter industry. And we hear a lot about drones, and then people said, "Oh, by the way, drones are going to put helicopters, out of the business." And actually, it's quite the contrary. I mean, they actually help, and they're a little more of an aid. So we actually see, how do we team these together? How can they work? So these are things we would have never thought of 10, 15 years ago. So again, looking at the new technologies, being aware that things will continue to change. When we talk about electrification, what does that mean, and the whole sustainability. So these are things that we weren't having this conversation really. I mean, 10 years ago, we weren't. Maybe 5 years we were starting, and now it's really kind of, I would say, it's in the forefront of everything that we do and that we talk about. So, autonomous air vehicles. These are things that are really, it won't happen overnight. It's not going to happen, tomorrow. It's not going to happen in 2 years. But again, I think if we, continue to invest and dream. I mean, we have at Airbus, our mission is a sustainable aerospace, right, for a safe, united world. This is everything that we do. We want to be the pioneers in this. So we kind of work along that motto, and it's all throughout Airbus and all the way down to the helicopter division here.
That sounds excellent. You've opened actually the door to some of the questions that some of our attendees actually have brought forward. There's a lot of curiosity about Airbus helicopters, and you had mentioned the role of drones. You've mentioned electrification and how it could change. So if someone would ask you, what is your long-term vision of Airbus helicopters just for the next 5 to 10 years, in light of all the rapid changes that we're seeing? Where do you think you will be, or your organization will be, in 10 years from now?
Canada or Airbus?
You know what? Actually, I think we would be interested in both, in probably both. Airbus Canada was definitely, but also as a whole too, globally.
Yeah. So I would say that I think in 10 years and globally, I think we certainly will be further along. I think probably you will see the lead definitely come out of Europe. They just tend to be a little more, I would say, ahead of North America, of the North American market. So again, it is a business, and as we talk about it, as much as we invest in R&D and technology, I mean, at some point there needs to be a customer and a customer need and a customer mission where it's applicable. So, we do see today, if I talk about the drones, we see these small drones that I'll call them the Amazon drones. And honestly, this is not the Airbus market. We don't compete in that. But we do have drones. So we actually have what's called the VSR 700. And this is more for a drone. It would be quite large. It'd be like a small helicopter. But it's primarily positioned for the defense market. And then we also have Aravel, which again is an unmanned drone. So this is something that I do believe we will see within the next, let's call it 3 to 5 years for sure in Europe. When I look in Canada and we look at the market in Canada, realistically, in some cases, we have customers that are already using drones. Now, again, smaller drones, but they're using them for flight following and things of that nature with the helicopters. They actually work in partnerships. So that's really quite exciting. And then on the defense market in Canada, so the Canadian market, we have not really been so successful to date, but that's about to change as we are going to enter the defense market with 19 H135s and partnering with Skyline. So that was announced a little while ago. So we're really quite pleased with that. And, I think just that opening the door, we can actually have the conversations and just share with our customers what we have and from a mission profile and trying to meet the needs of our customers in the future. But I would say within 3 to 5 years, you'll see something probably more in Europe, and then probably a little later in Canada.
Yeah. Do you, when you look at hurdles that you might be facing in making the innovations and the advancements that you would like to see here or globally, are there key regulatory challenges that you face in Canada? Are they different than what one would face in Europe, for example?
So I think the regulatory challenges when it comes to, let's call it, flight safety and certification are somewhat similar. So I would say between Europe and what we see in Canada. I mean, we have FAA in the US and Transport Canada here, and obviously EASA. So there they actually work quite collaboratively, and they can exchange files. So that certainly does help us. Some of the challenges just specific to Canada, I would say that we deal with. The government implemented a luxury tax on aircraft. Which, in fairness, we tend to view it more as a manufacturing tax because it penalizes us selling into Canada, into our own market. So that's certainly a little disappointing. And then I think in fairness as well, too, what we see is, I mean, we as Airbus have invested significantly in technology, and whether it's for environmental improvements, whether it's for safety improvements. And what we see in Canada is the tariffs for the helicopter operators to operate have maybe not kept pace with the new prices required for new technology. So what happens is we'll see aircraft being imported from other countries that maybe are 20 years old, that might not be the safest, it might not be the most efficient, but there's no limitations on bringing aircraft in, where there are other countries in the world that once an aircraft has reached a certain point, you can't bring that aircraft in. So I would say there it really kind of promotes technology and safety. And I think this is some work that needs to be done in Canada. And we're doing our part, trying with associations like OAC, AIAC, HAC, so all these acronyms, but trust me, they're all aerospace acronyms. But just to try and get that message across that, I think as much as we as the OEM play a role, I think at some point government needs to recognize as well too the role that they play in a sustainable aviation and in safe aviation.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that actually with us. And I think it's right. I think we need to have the private sector and the public sector working together to seeing like how we can actually unleash the opportunities that are there. Some of the questions have come in, you hinted at it as well, is the environmental challenges. How is Airbus Helicopters addressing environmental challenges, and maybe then also taking a look at, with the electrification in aviation, is there an opportunity? What are the trends, and how can you position your company at the forefront of such trends?
Yeah, for sure. So I think so environmentally, so first of all, I would say, so again, we talk about Europe maybe being a little ahead. So sustainable aviation fuel, which we call SAF, which is made basically from, again, the non-petroleum biofuels. Airbus has significantly invested in research and development, and as a matter of fact, all our helicopters are approved to fly with 50% SAF. The challenge is the availability of SAF. And yeah, I would say it's the availability of SAF. So here in Canada, and even Airbus through the colleagues in Mirabel, the A220, they've actually promoted and are working with Air Canada to try and provide SAF solutions and to have SAF at the airport. So again, I would say we are there. But when we talk about maybe being ahead and needing the support and the infrastructure, so SAF is one, certainly. The amount of investment also goes into research and development on the different technologies that we have. And we have many different, we call them business disruptors that are going on in business labs. And they'll have just a multitude of different technologies to see which one works to invest to put into our new aircraft. And the electrification. So we do have, it's called City Airbus. We do have a aircraft that is fully electric that flies. We've actually had the first autonomous flight end of last year, beginning of this year. It might have been beginning of this year. So I might get scolded for not knowing that, but there's been a lot that's gone on. But definitely, so it's flown. And what we see there is, I mean, that that technology will not replace what we have today with the turbine engine, but it will be a solution. And again, when we talk about a helicopter and we talk about the mission and the use, this is something that we see where it could possibly, in large cities where you have the dense population, that people will be able to use this for a 20-30 minute flight for transportation. And again, it would be all electric. So that's all being done, I would say, if you will, at the group level. And then when we look at what we do here, helicopters in Canada, we are not we do not design the aircraft, so we can give our input, but certainly a lot of that is done at the central organization. Nevertheless, I think we still have here, I think we have a duty. And so what we've done is we've put together, I would say, a sustainable environmental action plan where, one goal is to actually have zero land waste by 2030. So we're actively working towards that. We have a roadmap. We've also invested in the EV, where before we put the EV and we had no EV cars and people said, "Are you crazy?" And we said, "You know what, let's try it." Now it's always full. We had to add another one. So it's kind of some small steps that we've taken here. The lighting and things, I mean, people have done that a number of years ago, but what we can do, we do, understanding there's a business at the end, and then really try to provide that feedback to the group as to what the Canadian market can manage and handle on the air vehicle side.
Yeah, thank you so very much. I actually really truly, in getting and looking at some of the feedback from some of our attendees, I think there's many here in attendance today who didn't even know some of the things that you're doing, especially when you talked about the electrification and even in addressing some of the environmental challenges that all industries are facing right now. Another big buzzword these days is AI, and how to integrate AI into your operation, into the product development, into the manufacturing process of it. Can you give us a little bit of an insight on that?
Yeah, so we have, again, I'll speak more at the high-end group level. So there's a big focus on AI, absolutely. And even within North America, we operate as a region. So within the North American region, there's a focus on AI. Where we see it here and where we're utilizing it is more in our business processes. So basically trying to, I would say, eliminate, if you will, call those non-value add, and really use the AI to help us run the business in the background. And we're fortunate enough that what we do here is somewhat unique in some cases. So we'll have some ideas and we'll bring those forward to the team and they'll work on it. At the group level, we see AI, and you mentioned it, much more even on the design and in the cockpit, and what does that look like. So this is all, I mean, don't want to say we're all in with AI, but AI is a significant focus, as probably most companies. And here again, when I put into perspective of the Airbus group, lots being done at the big corporate, and then certainly here within the customer centers and within North America, what we do, use it to drive more of the business and help us with our competitiveness, because again, we see AI as a competitive advantage, right? So how can we embrace it? How can we utilize it? How can we collaborate amongst all the Airbus divisions to ensure that we're getting the best of it?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's an exciting time. For all of this, coming back to the beginning of our conversation, when you talked about the importance of the team and the team that you have, you need to have access to engineers, I assume, technicians, skilled workers who are vital to your industry. One of the things we hear from many of the industries across Niagara, but also across Canada, they have difficulty accessing the pool of skills that they need. Are you facing the same in your sector?
Yes, absolutely. So we're no different. Challenges, definite challenges. Where we're located in Niagara, so I love Niagara. I'm a Niagara boy, born and raised. But it does become at times a challenge depending on what field. So what we see is, if I talk about on the aviation side, and we talk about the aircraft, the pilots or aircraft maintenance engineers, if you come to Niagara, you come to Fort Erie to work for Airbus, you've made a decision that you want to work for Airbus, which is great. We're quite happy to have them. But you probably have limited your opportunities as to, I would say, other let's say, other companies. So if you stayed in the GTA, you have, you know, Air Canada, you have WestJet, you have Porter, you have, so this is a little bit of a challenge for sure. We see it on the aviation side. Anybody with that aviation skill set, um, they are in demand, and we are facing, I would say globally, I believe, because I don't think it's just us here either, but globally, I think we're facing a crisis when it comes to trained technicians and trained pilots.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I have seen the stats on this one too. This is a question from one of our participants today, and I think it's a really good one. And it's looking at, we are as an employer become in many ways also a global, and you especially as a global company, a global employer. You have European roots to your company. So it creates and needs a significant amount of cultural awareness on the differences as how we operate, how the companies maybe and your sister companies and your root company in Europe is operating versus maybe here, maybe versus some of your customers that are all over the world. What does your company do to create that cultural awareness among your staff as you're interacting not only with staff, but also with customers that are really from the global sphere? How can one support it to create that cultural awareness, to create the success that you want to see?
Yeah, so that is a great question, and I will tell you, when I joined 22 years ago, that was the one thing that I had to learn. So when again, you talk about the cultural awareness, and I had never worked for a company that had, let's say, a European parent company. So that was different. What I think we've done well at Airbus is we have a saying, local for global and global for local. And really what that means, and I would say what our role here is within Canada, is really to bring the voice of the customer back to the central organization. So in some cases, yes, we all need helicopters and we build helicopters, but even the missions in Canada and what they look like and the needs are very, very different. So we can take that, we can bring that back. And in some cases, I mean, we do have an engineering department here, so we'll design our own solutions specifically for Canada under a supplemental type certificate. So to answer the question as best as I can, yes, for sure, there's a cultural um, learning curve, but once you overcome it, I think the key for us as a company is it's always about the customer. At the end, it's always about the customer, so we can always find a common ground, and I think that's really been really helpful. And it's the collaboration, and I mean, helicopters alone is a group of globally 23,000 people. So when you can kind of harness those type of numbers, it's amazing what you can do. And I think this is really the strength, and I think it really speaks to why our market share in Canada for helicopters is so strong, right? I mean, we are the market leader. I think we had 76% of the market last year in all new helicopter deliveries. Yeah, I think the model that we have, and we can be local for global, or we can be global for local, and we can send that message upstream and downstream. I think it works really, really well.
Yeah, congratulations on that. That is a journey, and that is a tremendous commitment actually to being able to achieve that. There's a follow-up question to the question that we had when we looked again at the skilled trades in the labor pool and some of the challenges that you might be experiencing. And one of the questions was, are there specific skilled trades gaps that you're experiencing, and where maybe some of our post-secondary or other institutions close by could actually assist in developing?
Again, another great question. So I would say, are there gaps? Yes, absolutely. And again, engineers, I would say, honestly, not so much. There's lots of engineering schools. We go back more to the aviation specific, so we do see some of the, different colleges, applied colleges that have programs. So you have Fanshawe has something, Mohawk has something. I think Seneca has something as well too. So we try to connect there. Locally, we do not have anything in Niagara specific to aviation. We did try to do something, and I'll work with our counterpart a little bit across the road here as well too, to see what we can do. We work with OAC, so Ontario Aerospace Council to try and develop even some training programs that would help and assist. But honestly, it's not the same. And I would say when it comes to the local industry or the local education, we did have some dialogue. But what happens is I find when industry needs something, and if it doesn't already exist, it's a 5-year plan. And I've shared this to say we need to find a way to actually be quicker to respond to industry's needs. Because if it takes us 5 years, I can tell you we've lost the opportunity and it's gone somewhere else. This is just not how, honestly, this is just not how the world works in business, right? So I personally believe there's still some work to do. I don't think it's that anybody doesn't want to. I think it's just the mechanism and what we have in the post-secondary to get things like that in place. Again, composite technicians, a lot of things people don't know. So here, we're very unique in Airbus. We make composite components for 8 different platforms within the group, right? And there's no school in Niagara, or there's no training for any of that. So basically, we do a lot of on-the-job training, or we go out of the region to try and recruit and find people. But again, we have the challenge if they're from the GTA or they're from Hamilton, then they typically don't want to relocate. So there's absolutely a need. I don't have the answer, but if anybody comes up with the answer, please share it, because we could really use some support there.
Yeah. And you know what? It's very good for us to have this dialogue. And I think it's good for us when we share it too, because I think the post-secondaries do recognize that they want to be more responsive to the needs of the industries. Many of them have implemented some programs to assist that, but there's always opportunity to actually grow that and become better at it. Another participant of ours is asking, and this is really looking at the 3 challenges from a technology standpoint that you might be facing when it comes to innovation, security, and transformation. What are your you use technology intensely to make and create the products that you have? What are the top 3 challenges?
Cybersecurity is a huge challenge. Cybersecurity is probably our #1 challenge, just to make sure that everything stays safe against just the world that we're in. I would say the other challenge that I see where our industry is very, very different is when we talk about whether it's automation or robotics. Because aerospace volume is much smaller than other industries, example, appliance or automotive. When you look at the business need or the return on investment to invest in something where when I worked at Toyota, we made 150,000 Corollas a year. When I came to Airbus, we do 20 helicopters a year. So, you very quickly. So what we do is we take a pragmatic approach, and we invest in technology where it makes sense and where we're capable of being competitive. But we just don't invest in technology or automation for the sake of saying, "Oh, now we have a robot here," but then the fixed costs and the competitiveness is degraded. So those for me would be the 2 biggest challenges that we have for sure.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm going to move over to some of the rapid one-answer questions, and those are more, they touch a little bit on your industry sector, but they touch a lot on you as an individual as well. So the questions have come forward from individuals who can't be here today, but said those would be kind of fun questions to ask, but also insightful at the same time. So as this is called the Espresso, the GNCC Espresso, I have to ask you, are you a tea or coffee person?
Absolutely coffee.
Me too. Actually, makes it, that's wonderful to hear. Wonderful. Favorite helicopter model?
I'd have to say the H125.
Can we ask why?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I could explain because it's a one-answer question, but H125, because when I look at the Canadian market, we have more than 550 of them flying. It is the workhorse for the Canadian market, and it is just a proven utility machine it's the best aircraft out there in its size.
Yeah, that's excellent. The best leadership advice you've ever received?
never ask somebody to do something that you're not prepared to do yourself.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent one. One word to describe the future of aviation.
Exciting.
I agree with that one too. Most exciting technology in aerospace right now.
I would say the unmanned systems.
Could you expand on that? A little.
Sure. Yeah, I think if we think about where we were and even where we are today, to think that you could have a air vehicle lift off, navigate, and land without, I would say, a human in the cockpit. And I understand the whole safety thing around it as well too. But when we look at what's going on in the world today, I mean, I think there could be very well, you could find a place in the world where a need for that would certainly be beneficial.
Yeah, I agree with you, and that is exciting actually about it. One leadership quality you admire most in others.
Tenacity.
Very good one. Dream destination to visit by helicopter?
Newfoundland.
That's good. It's a good place. And who inspires you the most?
So that one's actually easy. It's actually my wife. My wife inspires me the most.
That's wonderful. This is not a one answer question that's coming up, but what legacy do you hope to leave at Airbus Helicopters by the time you decide to step down from your role?
Yeah, I think for me, this one I've actually thought about, so this one won't necessarily be new, but I've always said that I wanted to leave it better than when I arrived. And to me, that actually means having a solid footprint into the defense market in Canada, continuing to be the market leader in the civil and parapublic as well. And I would say having put this the right way, having this a place of first choice for our employees to be proud to work and want to come every day for what they do and providing that purpose.
Yeah, I think those are great, actually. Those are great goals to aspire to and to look back on. I think that would fill any individual with much pride. Usually, as we wrap up our Espresso sections, we ask you as our guest if there's anything you wish to share. You usually give individuals the last kind of minute or 2 minutes to saying, here are things that maybe we didn't address in the questions, but you would like the audience to know.
Yeah, no, thank you. You know what, actually just maybe two things. Mayor Redikoff touched on it a little bit, but I am a local boy. So it's quite, it's either known, you know me or you don't, but I mean, I'm from Niagara, born and raised, and I moved away a couple times, but I came back and I am very, very humbled, to be very honest, very humbled to lead Airbus Helicopters Canada, the first Canadian to hold the position. So yeah, really, really humbled by that, the group trusting me and everybody and the work that the team's done. The second thing is, anywhere in the world, if you happen to be somewhere in the world and you see an Airbus helicopter flying, so if you look up and you see it, you can say, you know what, there's a pretty good chance that there's a part on that helicopter that came from Niagara, from Fort Erie. So those are kind of my two, I guess, get off the stage moments, and thank you for that. But extremely proud to do what I do and lead the team here and the product, and just thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about Airbus and maybe a little bit about myself as well.
Yeah. So let me wrap it up then saying thank you so very much. Congratulations again on 40 years in Niagara. Thank you for all that you do for Niagara in the role that you hold. We're really glad that you're in that position. And my thanks also go to everyone who has joined us here this morning and all the ones who are going to tune into it in the days and weeks to come as we are sharing this webinar throughout all of our channels. And as always, my thanks go to Niagara Economic Development for also being the power behind dialogues like this, which I think are so critical to bringing the business community together. So Dwayne, thank you so very much for being with us. It's been a real honor, and you were the first one of kicking off the series of From the Corner Office. So thank you. Couldn't have imagined a better person. So,
Thank you very much. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you to all.